Hello, love. Now that you have seen how to set up Arkham Horror the card game, I am now going to teach you the rules and how to play Arkham Horror the card game. As you saw last time, I had chosen Roland Banks to be my investigator, and we have built his deck according to the rules that were on the back of his card. We also have his miniature card here. So, what do we do to get ourselves finally finished and ready to go to start playing the game? Well, we gain 5 of these little crate tokens here, which represent resources. And we get 5 cards. If we get a weakness card when we're drawing our 5 cards, set it aside. This will be your beginning hand. You are allowed to get 1 mulligan, which is where you take any number of these cards, set it aside, redraw. Oops, look, another weakness. Can't begin with game with a weakness in our hand. So, draw 1 mulligan, and any cards that we had set aside from our mulligan or any weaknesses go into the deck and get shuffled. As you saw last time, we had chosen our scenario as well as got our encounter cards ready for the game. Also, abiding by the rules of the campaign guide, we set aside the 2 cards, the Ghoul Priest and Leela Chantler, off to the side. Now, what is inside a scenario deck? Well, we have this rule card. For easy and standard side, if you so happen to draw these 3 tokens out of my beanie, certain effects would take place based off of what this card would say. So this is the side for the easy standard mode, and then there's harder rules for the other side. So this is our rule card for any tokens pulled out of my beanie. We also receive act cards, which are the objectives for us to complete during this campaign. They can be either pay 2 clues to advance the act, or 3, or defeat the Ghoul Priest. So I guess it's safe to say this guy's going to be a boss. Also, coming in the scenario is these cards, the agenda cards. These are the objectives for the scenario to do. It will get progressively harder and making our game much worse to play through. What is the purpose of these? Well, if we can advance the act deck completely before the agenda deck runs out, we win the game and we will receive one of the good endings. If the agenda deck runs out before we can complete all of our objectives, we lose the game and get one of the bad endings. There are 4 endings for this scenario alone. Some good, some bad. And the last thing we get in this scenario is a small amount of rooms. Because the campaign guide had told us that we need to start with the study and play, not like that, but like this, then we will have the study and play. If you notice, the study has a keyhole icon at the top. We want to make sure that it stays keyhole up right now. As we begin the game, it should look something like this. Investigator deck, resources. This would be in our hand, so it'd be like this. You have your room that is in play, your objectives, the objective for the scenario, the rule card for the scenario, the encounter deck, and your miniature card. You start off by putting your investigator inside of the study. When you enter a room, it unlocks. So from keyhole side to the other side. Sometimes there will be abilities that you will need to read. You will know how many clues are going to be in that location based off of what number is here. So for this room, 2 clues per investigator. That's what that little symbol right there next to the number means. And then this number over here is the number we need to equal to or surpass to pick up any of the clues inside of the study. The current objective is pay 2 clues per investigator to advance the act deck, whereas the agenda deck needs 3 what is called doom counters to place on there before it can advance and make the game more difficult for us. Doom counters are this red symbol. They are actually on the back of clues. So how does a turn work in Arkham Horror? Well, thankfully there's a card for that, telling us each single phase for a round. It skips the Mythos phase during your very first turn. So we begin the game in the investigation phase. Each investigator takes a turn performing 3 actions, and thankfully there's a card for that too on the back of the round cards, telling us what actions can be played during our turn. We can draw a card or gain a resource. You can play a card from your hand. You can activate this arrow ability. You can move to a connecting location, investigate your location, fight or engage an enemy at your location, or attempt to invade an enemy engaged with you. So, let's get down to what all of the actions do. Of course, the first action is very simple to understand. You can spend an action or any number of your 3 actions that you are allowed per your turn to draw a card from your deck and add it to your hand, or to take a resource from the resource pool and add it to your collection. The next action type is to play an event card or asset card from your hand. Note that any cards that have the word fast in them do not cost an action to play. They are free. So what determines what is an event card and what is an asset card? If you can see underneath the numbers, there is word asset or event or skill. To play an asset card means that the card will stay out on the field until it otherwise leaves. For example, if you played this card, you can discard him to deal 1 damage to an enemy at your location. If you do not play that, then he stays out on the field. Another asset card is Roland's 38 Special. He'll stay out on the field until all 4 ammunitions are gone. Event cards go through 1 effect and then are done instantly. How do you play one of these cards? Well, you see the numbers. That is how many resources you need to spend to play that card. So if I wanted to play the Beat Cop here, I have to pay 4 resources, and then he will be my friend, and he'll be out on the field. The next action that you could do is to activate one of these arrow abilities on a card. So let's take Roland's 38 Special, for example. If I wanted to play this card and put it into play, I have to spend 1 action plus 3 resources to put him out on the field. When I do that, he gets 4 ammo tokens on this card. I could use this arrow ability as another action, and where I turn the card sideways to show that it has been used, exhausted, and remove 1 of the ammunition. And what does that do for me? Well, for this card specifically, it gives me +1 combat when I'm fighting, or if I have 1 or more clues at my location, I get +3 instead. Then, this attack deals 1 damage. That is what it means to use this arrow. There are a couple other symbols that are on cards. A lightning bolt, and this means a reaction. These do not cost any abilities, does not cost any actions to activate these card abilities. The next action that we could do is move to a connecting location. Now, I had set up this to show later in the scenario what happens when we have multiple locations. As you can see, we are in the hallway right now. I want to go to the attic. What do I need? I look at these bottom 3 symbols here and try to match them to any of these symbols here. This one has a triangle. This symbol up here is a triangle. So I could move and spend 1 action to come to the attic. Now I'm discovering it for the first time because it has not been discovered before. I flip it. I see that it has an ability. Uh-oh. After I enter the attic, I take 1 horror. How frightening. Well, 1 mental damage against Roland. He only has 5, but now he has 4. This represents mental damage that we take. Also, in this location, you can see it has 2 clues. 2. I can pick up those clues if I can match a 1 or get higher than that. That is what it means to move to a location. If you want to move back, look at the bottom symbol and find the matching symbol at the top. The next action that you could do is investigate your location, which means pick up the clues that are available. If there are no clues on a location, you cannot find clues. There has to be these little clues on your location. So how do you investigate your area or try to find clues? Well, this number here determines what you need in order to pick up 1 clue. You need a 2 or higher to pick up a clue. You compare that number with your skill down here, and intelligence is for clue finding. So I have a 3, and I need a 2. So what you do is you reach into the bag and pull out 1 number. -1. So you subtract 3 minus 1, still 2. And that's what we needed. We needed a 2 or more to pick up a clue. When you pick up a clue, just come over here, set it down somewhere, and it's yours to keep. There are some cards that can help you. For example, magnifying glass. You can pay 1 resource. It is an asset, so it'll stay out on the field. It is fast, so it doesn't cost anything. And if you use this, you get +1 when investigating. So if I would have used this, I would get 1 + 3 for 4, and then take my luck by reaching into the beanie and pulling out another token. There are also some symbols on the sides of your cards that match your skills right here for willpower, intelligence, combat, and speed. If you are very uncertain about what will come out of this bag, and you want an extra bump, and you don't have something like the magnifying glass, you can take these cards, any number of them, with the matching symbols for the skill required to do whatever test, and discard them to give yourself that many more points towards your skill. So if I discarded this card, I would receive 2 extra intelligence points to my 3, making it a 5. So when I reach into the bag, I have a better chance at still maintaining a 2. Another skill that you could do, or action I mean, is you can fight or evade an enemy at your location. Engaging an enemy means that there has to be an enemy at that location at the same time you are at that location. So all you do to engage an enemy is take the enemy from the location, set him right next to you. Now you're going to be engaged with him. Or, if you're already engaged with an enemy, you can attack him. What you're going to look at is you're going to look at this number here. It's a 4. You're going to look at your number here. It's also a 4. And you're going to try to get equal to or higher than a 4 to deal a damage to an enemy. So, all you do, again, reach into the bag, pull out a number, and if it's equal to or higher than the 4, you deal 1 damage, and 1 damage only, to an enemy. Of course, there are cards that help you during these situations. For example, if I wanted to play his 38 special, remove 3 resources, and then he comes in with 4 bullets. Where is it? There it is. And then I could use an action, my second action, if this is a new game, spend 1 action to play it. I'm going to spend 1 action to use it so I can fight, plus the resource. And I look at its ability, and since I have clues at my location, I get plus 3 to my 4, making it a 7. So, reach into the bag, if I can get my fingers in there, pull out, minus 2. Well, still pass it. So, it only deals 1 damage if it was just you. But since this one says this attack deals 1 damage, not only does it deal 1 damage, it deals 2, bringing him down from a 5 to a 3. And that is their health right there. It is 5 health per investigator. The last action that you can do is evade an enemy that is engaged with you. So what you will need is you'll need an enemy engaged with you. You'll see over here that it needs a 4 to escape it. No, he only has a 2. So the odds of him escaping this thing are pretty slim. If you don't have any cards, then of course you can look at your hand. Take any cards with the same matching symbol for whatever skill test you're doing, discard them, and add that many number of icons to your skill. So 2 to make it a 4. And if I felt really special, I'll do this one too. So I'll discard this one to give me 1 more. And this right here is a wild symbol, meaning it can be for any skill. So I'll make it also towards mine. So I bump it from a measly little 2 to a total of 6. And I reach into the beanie and pull out a number. Oh, it's a 0. So I have a 6. And all I needed to do was a 4. So I invade the enemy, which means that the enemy is exhausted and unengaged with me. That means he won't attack me next turn. And I'll talk to you all about monsters and them attacking. Also note that if you try to do anything else other than fight, evade, make a parley, or resign an ability, each enemy that is engaged with you will attack you. So, if he was engaged with me and I wanted to investigate and pick up a clue, well, he would attack me. How does attacking work? right here and here tells you how many damage you will take. You can't defend it. It's all going to come at once. So you instantly take 2 physical damage and 2 mental damage. You'll put that on your card, and if it's equal to or higher than what you have here on your total, you die. So it can be very difficult, and this is a very strong guy. So good thing he's at the end of the game and not at the beginning. After the investigation phase, which is your turn where you take 3 of your actions from any of the actions on the back of here, it is time for the enemy phase. Any enemies with the hunter keyword move to the nearest investigator. So for example, the ghoul priest has this word hunter. He would move towards me. If there does not appear to be a hunter symbol or a hunter word anywhere on this card, it just stays there. He's not moving anywhere. But this guy, he came after me. So he's going to come down here. And he's going to become engaged with me. Because after they move, each enemy that becomes engaged will attack. And again, they attack simultaneously with 2 damage and 2 horror. Or with this guy here, it'd be 1 damage and 2 mental damage. I forgot to mention, when an enemy attacks you, turn it to the side, it is exhausted, meaning it cannot attack again. If it attacks because you did anything else besides fight, evade, activate a parley, or resign, then it does not exhaust. It is only when, during the enemy phase, that he attacks you, that he's exhausted. So, just wanted to make sure I did not forget that little detail. Also, I had forgotten to mention that after you do 3 actions on your turn, your investigator goes from the colored side to the black and white side, showing that he is done, and all of his moves have been spent, and it is now time for the next person's turn, if it is a multiplayer game, or it is the enemy's turn. Then, after the enemy phase, after they all attack you, and make life a little more difficult, you are now in the upkeep phase. So you will now flip all of your mini cards from the black and white side to the colored side. You will ready all exhausted cards, so if a monster attacked you, it is now reinstated, or if you had evaded him and he became exhausted because you evaded him, he now readies and then engages with you if you are in that area, comes to your field, ready any cards that are in your control. Then you draw 1 card and gain 1 resource. So you draw a card, add it to your hand, and gain 1 resource. Then, if you have any more than 8 cards in your hand, you discard down to 8. Now, that was the end of the round. On the second round, we now begin at the Mythos Phase, which takes 1 Doom token, which is these red sides of the clue tokens, and we add it to the agenda. So slowly it will build up and slowly try to defeat us 1 token at a time. So we add it to the agenda, and if it equals to or succeeds the agenda objective right here, then we move on to the next one, flip it over, then we have to take any consequences that came with it, and move on to the next one. After that, we draw 1 encounter card. Each investigator takes 1 encounter card and has to deal with whatever comes out of it. They can be enemies, or they can be treacheries. Enemies will engage with you if drawn. They won't attack you, but they'll be right here, waiting just to attack you. Treacheries have this ability called Revelation, which for this one attaches to my location. So we'll attach it like so. And what does it do? Well, the attached location gets +2 shroud. So this is that shroud number here. This is what we need to pick up clues. So this goes from a 2 to a 4, meaning I have to get at least a 4 to pick up this one clue. And then it's got an ability called Forced. So after I have all these clues taken away from the location, it's been successfully investigated, discard the treachery. It's gone. If you defeat an enemy, then the enemy is discarded, and you've defeated it successfully. Certain cards, like these with victories, are for the campaign, and you set it aside, and this goes to your experience. And one last thing to note is that when you draw cards, sometimes you'll get weaknesses. Revelations mean you activate them right away. So if you drew this card, it wants you to discard all of your resources. That really sucks and puts us back quite a bit. After it's done, discard it. It's out of the game now. Basic weaknesses and other weaknesses cards are all like that. Just mean. And the last thing I forgot to mention are these 2 tokens. If you pulled these out of your beanie, they receive 2 special abilities. This red one is an automatic failure. You instantly lose, no matter how great your stats were and buffed up they were. You lose. You get a 0. This one goes to this special ability right here, which gives you +1 for each clue at your location. So if you were doing a skill test, saying trying to pick up a clue, 1 clue there, you have 3, and you pulled this out of it, well, that 3 is now a 4. 1 clue, 1 point for each clue. And so that is the abilities. Of course, there are also character abilities. This one's a reaction. After you defeat an enemy, discover a clue at your location. You can only do that once per round. It's a free action. Everyone has their own different ways to play, and this one is just rolling banks. Hopefully I did not melt your mind too much with all the rules, but that is every rule that I know of in Arkham Horror, the card game. Now it is time to play, but I will save that playthrough for another video.